find those out as we play. Okay, but defense. So in the mine, though, this is tied very heavily to the tunnels. Our defense are these creatures. So there's creatures in the tunnels. In the tunnels that protect us from outside invaders, which we also have to tangle with as well. They don't care who they attack, so we have to be careful. Tremor worms. Oh, maybe that's what actually created some of these things. There was new tunnels and opens come through. Maybe it's a new creature that's come through and is trying to tell us something, or we need to find out. Can we go there and be more safe? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Okay, and then on the above ground, we need to double down on this too. So in the, not just in the mountains, but then also in the forests and in the swamps and whatever, we need to have, so outside of just the mountains, there are other creatures more terrible than the tunnels, than what can be found in the tunnels. Let me refresh this real quick. Okay. Let's see here. More terrible than what be found in the tunnels. Oh, okay. Well, let's do this. Let's come back over to, so one of the cool things about Ironsworn is that it provides a number of these tables where we can just look and find information when we don't know what it should be. And I think we need to find out a little bit more about these creatures. So the creatures that are here, let's just come down a little bit. Let's see what table would make sense for us. Character descriptors, I suppose. And maybe just a general theme, we can work them in here. They have some other ones like, elves and others like giants, Varu, trolls. Trolls sound interesting. And they just eat everything. Let's do brain worms. Yeah, we're being affected by a brain worm. Okay, let's just come over to some themes and actions. Okay, let's do this. We're gonna roll maybe on the actions and get a sense of these creatures, what they're about, and maybe that'll tell us a little bit about it. So let's give 2d100. See what we get, and we'll come up with something here. No, you're not gonna do it. Can make me refresh this? You totally are, aren't you? Okay, let's try it again. Roll 2d100. There we go. 522. Let's take a look and see what these creatures are. They create, and 22, and they preserve. Oh, okay. Let's see. So these are people. These are some kind of creatures that have taken up the old. They've taken up the old ruins that are on the surface. This is why going to the ruins, and this is purely in our mind, by the way. So for defense, that there are creatures that live in the ruins of the old people. These are the people that moved here. That lived here before our people came from the old world and were attacked by the Skuld. So they were also attacked by the Skuld like hundreds of years ago, and they've left their ruins, and that's part of some of like our homes that we live in and the mines that we go into. But these are creatures in our mind that live in the ruins of the old people on the surface, and they try to rebuild them, but in a strange way. They rebuild and protect the ruins along with the treasures, hidden treasures that lay within. And what do these creatures look like? What are they about? I have no idea. I don't really care. We're not gonna focus on it right now. But we know that there's things of power. There are things of power there. Of power that are inside these runes, And that might be something we want to go into later. Okay. Cool. Okay, that's defense. Mysticism. Okay, so in Ironsworn, this is set up as a thing where we can just establish mysticism and magic in the game itself. And so what we're going to do is, since we want to keep it low magic in the real, we're going to use part of this first one. So there's comfort in the old ways. This is like mysticism that's like, it's not real magic, but it's seen as magic. So this is, the poultices, the herbalism, all those things that could be seen as magic. So let's just go ahead and plug in mysticism. Did we put yeah, good, we did. So let's come over here. Mysticism. Perfect. Okay. And low-key things seen, no, let's say science seen as magic. And this is stuff like herbalism, etc. Okay, so science seen as magic, and then there's also rituals that they've created around this from the old world, created around these activities to give them weight. And this is probably, like back in the day, this would have been your what do you call it? Like your shamans, your people, divination rituals, something like a spiritual journey. Yeah. So these would be things where, well, and that would be stuff that we can get into later as well. Like we'd be seen as like the outside people that have visions. And since we have some of these rituals and things that are seen as magic, everybody sees us as, everybody's suspicious of us and this vision that we're going to have, these things that we can see that other people can't. And some people may think that we're crazy, and other people may think that it's real and that we can help them with their problems, real or otherwise. So yeah, that's absolutely going to be a thing. But there's rituals here, and this is used to give weight to people in the society. So this would be like your shamans, your healers, etc. Okay, but for us, for mysticism. And this is going to be with something we took for our character, which as you create characters and things in this game, you can have, there's like, paths you can choose. There's, one of them is called a ritual. And these are like magical abilities. They're kind of like low-key stuff, but it's more, they're not like fireball. It's more like a ritual long-term things that you can do. It has a little more meat to it. It's not an instant kind of thing. And one that we're going to choose is called it's like a circle. It's a binding. I forget exactly what it is. It's a ward. Where we can use iron to create a ward to protect ourselves. And so in our mind, it's not so much just that magic is real, but we have visions to see things that other people cannot. We have sight. See things others cannot. Collaborative hallucinations. Oh, that's an interesting one. See things that others cannot. Creatures, paths, visions, etc. Okay. This is both a curse and a blessing, because we don't control this, and it gets us into trouble. And sometimes people think that we're crazy. We're not, but sometimes people think we are. It's both a curse and a blessing. Okay. Let's come back over here. We're going to flesh this mysticism out as we get into the game itself. Religion. Let's see. A few Ironlanders still make signs or mumble prayers out of habit. Yeah, the people honor old gods and new. Our gods are many. They make themselves known through manifestations and miracles. Now we're keeping with a low magic feel. I'm going to say this top one here. They still make signs and mumble prayers out of habit or tradition. But most believe the gods long abandoned us. With the nature of our people and the history that we've just recently been through, I don't think this is much of a religious folk. These are hardscrabble people who, at least with the group that we know of that we're going to start with, there may be gods, and maybe the gods are still out there, but boy, they sure haven't been really kind and helpful for us. Religion. But maybe we find as we play this game But there's others out there that actually do. But right off the bat, we're going to have this be pretty low. Let's make signs. Yep. Okay, cool. And I'm not going to add anything for in our mind here. That may change as we go through, especially if we meet other people that do believe in things, or there are gods out there, then our mind may embellish that further. Okay. Taken from our herd suggestion. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, and our psychosis and our visions and our delusions and our hallucinations, and how people will see them. Okay, here we go, the firstborn. Okay, so this is in the real world. There's none of this. The firstborn were the people who lived here from before and who were basically called out and destroyed by the Skald. Some of the rituals do, yeah, potentially. Okay. So let's look in the firstborn here. So the firstborn in our world, let's just do this. Firstborn. So normally in Ironsworn, the firstborn, these are like your magical creatures, your different creatures. These are like your elves, your trolls, your any of your fantasy type creatures. These are the firstborn, the people who live here. And normally we live alongside them. In our world, though, there are no firstborn. There are our people, and there's the Skald, and the firstborn are the people who were here. These are the old people. That's what we call them. That were here hundreds of years ago. And they were an early target of the Skald. And they are long since gone, as far as we know. Or maybe some of our people merge with them. We don't know. Some of the rituals do, yeah. Okay. Let's see. But in the mind, just getting on over people hundreds of years. Yeah. So absolutely, Kenny. It's, our people in the old world were targets of the Skald, and now they've followed us here. And then as we got here, we found out, oh man, there were people that were here even before us that had the same kind of a thing. So this is an old, I don't even want to call it a conflict. It's a thing that's been going on for a long time, and we've just been getting crushed by it. Okay. But the firstborn in our mind, that's a little different. So in our mind, we know that the firstborn, and actually there's going to be two. So there's the old people, and then there's also this other group. And actually I saw the name, the Varu, which was over here. Where is it? In the name generator, we have the Varu. Here we go. So these are names that we're going to use for when we start getting into it. But in our case, we have the old people, and then we have the Varu. And the Varu are, they're the Skald who we have made monstrous in our mind. So maybe they didn't live here, but they're still around. And if we ever see any of them, then they're going to be far monstrous in our minds than they are in real life. Even though in real life, they still sound pretty goddamn monstrous. Okay. So the Varu are the monsters that take and take for their own purposes. They are brutal. Brutal, bloody, savage. Only desire death. And no, not just death. That's too easy. Suffering. They are the reason why we're in this position. And they are, let's see here, early target. This is in our mind, so we need to cut this out of here and take it down here. There we go. Okay. And then we will flesh them out as we actually play. Okay. Cool. Let's see. Let's you know what? We're gonna do one more thing. They have a number of descriptors. Here we go. And let's roll a couple up and let's see if we can find a little bit. If we get any that don't fit with what we have in mind, then we'll just re-roll them or we'll bump them up and down. But let's roll 3D100 and let's get a sense for who these people are. So 31 and 98. Let's take a look. So 31, they are dependent. Ooh, I like that. Okay, so they're dependent, and 98, they're obsessed. Okay, okay. So there's something about this place that makes them keep coming back. It's the iron. It has to be the iron. But they need it. Okay, this is good. So here's what we're going to do. So we have some traits. They are dependent, and they're obsessed. So the Varu need iron to survive. This is entirely in our mind, by the way. The Varu in the real world are actually the skull, like we talked about. But in our mind, we've given them purpose. We've given them reason to make sense of it all, because our mind, through various events in our character's history and Lagos history, has I don't want to say broken, but it's been stretched to the snapping point. And so he's created a version for himself that he can understand better in his own mind. So the Varu, they need iron to survive. That's why they're coming after it. Okay, and if they don't get it, they die. So right off the bat, that gives our character some purpose. So our state of being is we don't fit in. Our character Lago doesn't fit in any real setting. So we travel a lot, and I can already see with this that this is going to be a place where if we want to hurt the Varu, and if we want to make them go away, we need to take the iron. We need to find the iron. We need to take the iron. We need to, if they have the iron, we need to take it from them, because then they'll die. And they're also obsessed with it. So I think they don't just need iron to survive. They settle, and they're drawn to places where there's iron deposits as well. So they're drawn to and settle in areas of iron deposits. Okay. So, and we know our people go to try to mine and find iron as well, but this is going to be a place where if we ever get nearby places of iron, then we know we're going to run into the Varu, whether it's real or otherwise, they will be there. So that's going to be a danger that we have to deal with. Okay. Beasts. Yep, this first one is the one we want to go with. So the beasts of old are nothing but legend, and beasts are like, these are, the monsters, the big creatures. Trying to kill myself here. Okay. So, beasts of old are nothing but legend. So a few who travel into the deep forests and the high mountains, they return with wild tales of monstrous creatures. Let's see here. Okay, let's see. Let's get this in here. This is beasts. This is going to be another place where we have a difference in the real and in our mind. Beasts. There we go. Let's paste this in. So you're going to have your bears, your wolves, your things like that. But there's no monstrous creatures anymore. That's just not a thing that exists. Okay. But in the mind, we've already talked a little bit about them in the tunnels. So serious monstrous beasts do exist. Okay, and they're in the tunnels, in the mines, they're in the forests, places of iron. And the one place where we know they're not is they are not in no, that we know they are, is that there's also this other beast that take up residence in the surface ruins. Another creature. It's not just a creature itself. There's like a whole bunch of creatures. So this would be like this whole other subset of creatures that lives in the ruins, the surface ruins of the old people. These were the ones that were creators and protectors. So they're rebuilding, and there's power here. Okay. We haven't named them. Let's name them. So let's... 87. We're going to grab one of the names from the Varu list, because that sounded interesting. Those creatures are... What do we get? 87. The Muko. Or we can use the Baku. I like the Baku. We're going to use the Baku. Okay. Okay. These are the Baku. And then let's put them up here too. Where was it? Here we are. The Baku. Those are the creatures that that live in the old ruins on the surface, and they protect things of power that are inside. Okay. Good. So those are the beasts. And then as we play the game, we'll learn more about this. And we even talked about the the tunnel spiders and whatnot. There's probably a few things we're gonna start to see. Okay. And then horrors. So do we have real horrors in the world? Nothing but stories to frighten children, weary of dark forests and deep waterways. Nope, we're gonna go. We have plenty of horrors in the real world, in our world here, which is the Skald. That's horror enough for us. We don't have any mystical, magical horrors in the real world. Paste with that format. Nothing but stories to frighten children. The Skald are enough of a horror for us. Okay. And we will absolutely have a horror in our mind. Let's see. I think for now, we already have a good amount of stuff in here. I think the horror that we have in our mind is going to be a raid. So this would be when the Skald come to our island and they start going in and raiding us. We call it the Tide. And this is probably a rare event, but when we see it, it probably looks like, this huge gathering of creatures that are coming in that we have to run from and are biting on our tails and trying to find us as we try to warn people. And this is the Tide. It's Skald raid made monstrous. Okay, this would be some combination of the Var that we saw from before, but it would be massive. So Skald Varu raid made monstrous. Perfect. Okay, that looks good. Okay, now I think that takes us through with world building. Good. Okay, next up is character. So I'm going to come over to, let's see here. Where would it be? Here we go. So I've already created some things in here. This is the character sheet for Ironsworn, and I've put some things in here. I've already set the stats, and we'll talk more about this in our first actual session when we start going through and creating everything. We have bonds, which we'll talk about. We have vows that we talk about. But what I want to do is come over to assets. Okay, so there's a few things I've already set for our character logo. So number one, we have a path. We are sighted, and this is a path in the game. They all give you different special abilities. But whenever we face danger or gather information to identify or detect mystic forces, we got to add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit. Don't worry about that how it works. We're gonna play, and then you're gonna see when it comes up. But this fits well with our character. We see things that other people cannot see. So we are sighted, and people know it. We also have a ritual called a ward, and this is when you walk in a wild circle. We can sprinkle the ground with salt. In this case, we don't sprinkle it with salt. We sprinkle it with iron. So we'll carry an iron staff with us, less so as a weapon, although we could probably use it as such if we needed to. And we use this to protect ourselves. And when we face our foes, either real and in our mind, we have a benefit from that. And so in this case, we get to roll, we get to do some things, and then we either get more momentum, we get additional harm, and we get to ask some questions about if we're going to be able to trap our foe. And then the last one is our companion. We've chosen a companion for Lago. His name is Reese, and he is skilled. He's skilled at seeing what is hidden. So whenever our companion is aiding us in being able to see what is hidden, then we get some bonuses here. Reese doesn't exist.